Hello guys, how are you all doing? I hope everyone is doing absolutely fine. Well, I am back again with a new video. In this video, we'll be doing the Living World chapter part 1. So the totally in this video we'll be finishing the entire chapter for not like part 1 and part 2. Here we'll be finishing the entire chapter. So this front page, since they have asked in NEET 2025 from these pages as well, so these two pages I'll be doing in the last. Okay, now we will directly jump into the chapter. So this is a very small chapter, so I'll be finishing it in one video only. Okay, so first thing is that I'll come back to this NCERT part. Okay, but first these notes that I have made for you is very important. I will you can look into them carefully and make notes accordingly. Okay, first thing is that first I'll be reading these NCERT lines for once if you read these, the starting NCERT lines is going to be easier for you. That's why I'm coming to this. Then I'll come to the NCERT part also. Not that much problem it is, but these notes are based on NCERT as well as few important points that I have included along with NCERT. But I make sure that apart from these notes you won't get any other question. Okay, if you properly follow my biology and physics series with question practice, there is nothing else that you need to do after this. Okay, so be careful. First is the living world. Life is unique organization of various molecules which together form a cell. Now see here, we see various living organisms around us, right? In every environment we can see living organisms, like we can see in deep oceans, in in very hot places also we can see living organisms, like in hot thermal places. Okay, or in hot springs, there also we can see living organisms. So we can now conclude that living organism is not localized to any particular place, but in fact we have living organisms present almost everywhere. So that is what they're telling here. Life is a first what happens, what constitutes a cell. A cell is constituted by various molecules. Okay, so and cells together form tissues, or maybe organisms might just stop their level at cell only, like we have unicellular organisms, or in higher organisms we have cells which constitute tissues which constitutes organs which constitute organ systems. Like this is what the life is all about. Okay, it is a unique constituent of all this. Do you find this in non-living organisms? No, you don't find this in non-living organisms, right? That is what they're telling here. Life is unique organization of various molecules which together form cell. Got it? This is the life definition that we are looking, not scientifically, but what we know we are just telling here. Then what did some biologists, they wanted to give a proper definition to what life is exactly. Okay, because life means there should be some definition, right? So some biologists, they came forward to give a proper definition of what life is. So first approach of defining definition of life was given up by a biologist. So it was basically mostly in a technical term, not in a philosophical. The second approach was a philosophical one, but the first approach of giving a definition to life was a technical term which was given by biologists. So what does it tell? Power of organism to maintain and reproduce itself on earth is called is a technical term that was given by biologists. Means the if living organisms exist in this world, they should have some kind of power or ability to maintain and reproduce themselves. That is how the life continues, right? So the second approach was a philosophical one. And what was the approach? What does it exactly tell us? Focuses on purpose of life or to living organisms. What is the purpose of life? Now, why are you born exactly? What is my purpose here? That is what you're studying here to become a doctor. That is your purpose, right? So you want to you become a doctor to either contribute to the society, or you want to do some other thing with your life. Okay, anything, but your life should have a purpose. That is what they're telling. This is the second approach. The first approach was a technical term. What is exactly life? It is basically the power of an organism to maintain and reproduce itself on earth. That was the first term. Okay, understood, right? The first term was technical term. Second was a philosophical one. The technical term was given by a biologist. Okay, now exactly what does a biologist tell is that there is some unique characteristics in living organism that is different for a non-living organism. Okay, so what are they telling here is that there is some unique feature in a living organism that is going to be different from a non-living organism. Just to read the point that I am underlining with my finger, okay, do not focus on the elsewhere thing, because I know you get easily distracted. That is why I'm pointing out my finger exactly where should I read it. Okay, so just read that para. So some unique characteristics in living organism is different from non-living organism, like we have the growth, reproduction, sensitivity. All these are a few features that we can sense externally, we can see externally, if that organism is growing, if that organism is reproducing, if how is it responding to a stimulus. For example, if you touch a fire thing, I can see that you are getting you somehow gets that stimulus and you take your hand immediately out of it, right? So that is how I can sense these externally. I can see that from externally what I can see growth, I can see reproduction, I can see sensitivity. What I cannot see, but it is a defining feature of living organism, which is from inside. What is it? Like metabolic reactions, self-replication, and self-organization. Okay, this is all about the introduction of this chapter. Now we will go with one by one, what is growth, what is reproduction, all this we will see one by one. Okay, first we are seeing the growth aspect. Now growth is a fundamental character of living organism. Okay, growth is a fundamental character of living organism. Even reproduction comes under, because without growth we cannot tell that the organism is actually a living organism, right? The major thing that we see in a living organism to determine whether it's living or not, it is basically the growth as well as reproduction. These two are something that we'll see in every organism. Okay, so fundamental character of living organism is growth. An intrinsic property, basically growth is an in living organisms, it is an intrinsic property. What do I mean by intrinsic property? We have two properties, intrinsic and extrinsic. What is extrinsic and what is intrinsic? So what are they telling here is that intrinsic means something that's happening from inside. Like see, now if I'm growing, it means that first of all my mass is increasing, and one is the thing is that the cells are increasing. If the mass and cells are increasing, then only what is happening, I am growing, right? If the mass and cells are not increasing, am I growing? No, I am not growing, right? So mass and cells are something that is increasing in me. That is why it is known as a defining feature, or it is an intrinsic property. But growth, but if you see non-living organism, can we tell that non-living organisms are actually growing? Yes, we can tell non-living organisms are growing, but how is it? Is it intrinsic in them? I hope you are listening to me carefully. Okay, listen, put earplugs and listen to me carefully, because this chapter is all about listening and remembering facts. It is not mostly on conceptual basis. Okay, so in non-living organism, am I growing intrinsically? No, I'm not growing intrinsically, I'm growing extrinsically. Like how extrinsically? From how can I grow extrinsic way? Basically by accumulation of substances. How accumulation of substances exactly? Like if you see sand mountains, if you see, mostly it is formed due to accumulation of substances, or the mountain being growing into hills you can see, or everything like rocks, accumulation of rocks, rocky terrains that you see, all these are built because of accumulation. Okay, not because they are growing intrinsically. So non-living organisms also grow. Okay, so that is what they're telling here. Okay, so all organisms grow, but in case of living organisms, it is an intrinsic property, and basically the growth involves two aspects. One is increase in mass and increase in number of cells. Okay, I hope these two are clear. Next is that all organisms, uni or multicellular, they grow by cell division. Cell division is a aspect that we exhibit for growth. But is pattern and duration of organisms same in all living organisms? First, understand the question here. Is pattern and duration of growth, like how much time I take to growth, or how I grow. Like for example, my hands, limbs, and all my face if you study the reproduction chapter in class 12th, you will understand that at what time what was formed. Like if you see, first month heart is formed in a baby, in a pregnant woman. For the baby, first month heart is formed, second month the limbs are formed. Like this, the according to months, the pattern duration of growth is distributed. Similarly, do plants also have the same kind of growth as humans exhibit? No, right? So plants, they usually show unlimited growth. How they show unlimited growth? If you study the morphology further, you'll be studying those chapters. You see that plants exhibit unlimited growth because of a special kind of tissue present in them, that is called as meristematic tissue. You might have studied this meristematic tissue in your 9th grade, right? So that is why these plants, they show unlimited growth. But what about animals? Do animals show unlimited growth? No, they don't show unlimited growth, but they show a limited growth. That is why you see that we are not eternal, right? We have a certain duration towards life. That is what they're telling you, okay? Now, in unicellular organism, the growth and reproduction occurs by cell division. How it occurs exactly? By cell division. Like, see now, in unicellular organisms, as your what does the growth and reproduction exactly mean? Mitosis. You might have studied mitosis. What is mitosis? Mitosis you might have studied that first the cell grows, it prepares all the substances, then it divides. So same thing, okay? So basically here asexual mode of reproduction happens. So first what happens? It grows. How does it grow? It doubles all the stuff that it has, like nucleus. It doubles. Then it doubles its what do we say, vacuoles. It grows double its size. Basically the size is doubled over here. Everything is double. Then it starts dividing. That division wala phase is called cell division. So basically two phases you can see in growth. That is, one is the karyokinesis, one is cytokinesis. That is how the growth and reproduction both are synonymous in living organism. That is why we tell that it is a mutually inclusive events. In unicellular organism, the growth and reproduction both are mutually inclusive events. This mitosis, meiosis we'll be studying in the cell the cell growth chapter. In those chapters we will be studying this, okay? But for now, you remember that in unicellular organisms we have both growth and reproduction, they are mutually inclusive events. But in higher plants and animals, growth and reproduction, they form mutually exclusive events. Are you getting the point here? Yes. Now, does cell division occur only during growth and reproduction? Does the cell division only occur during growth and reproduction? No. How will it occur only during the, now if you're hurt, can I say that your skin is permanently peeled off? No, right? The cells are again regenerating, so that the cells are again growing there, so that the wound is healed, right? So no, it also occurs during maintenance of lost cells, during injury or maintenance of size and shape of the body. During all these events, the cell growth is maintained. So remember this, okay? So for that aspect, I'll just open my NCERT. So you also open your NCERTs. Together we'll be reading it now, okay? So yeah, now see, this first para, everything is simple only. I have read this and I have just summarized you in this part, the first paragraph part, okay? This one, this para, if you read from my notes, it is more than enough. But once you go through this first paragraph, okay, all this I have covered, okay? Everything I have covered. The thing that you have to remember here is that if you look around, this is okay. Each different or kind of plant, animal or organism that you see represents a species. The number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 million. This is important, okay? The range of organisms that is present is about 1.7 to 1.8 million species. This refers to biodiversity or the number and types of organisms represent on Earth, okay? So this is the thing that is there so far. So let's just move on to the next page then. Yes. Now, growth is irreversible and intrinsic in living organisms, okay? Yes, it is. Why is it irreversible? Now, suppose once you grow, can you reverse your height? Is it reversible? No, it is not reversible, and it is happening intrinsically, as I told you already. Okay, and growth in non-living organisms, it is going to be reversible and extrinsic. Got it? Next is that is growth or a defining feature of living organism. Is growth exactly the defining feature of living organism? Now, false. Growth is not a defining feature unless examined scientifically. Now, see here, since the growth is happening in both living and non-living organisms, we cannot tell that growth is exactly, a defining feature of living organism. Okay, it is happening both extrinsically as well as intrinsically. As a result, growth is not an exclusive or defining feature of living organism. Okay, but you can say it is a characteristic of living organism. Is growth a characteristic of living organism? No, you cannot tell growth is also a characteristic of living organism, because growth can be exhibited by non-living organisms also. As I told you, extrinsic, whatever it is, extrinsic or intrinsic, both of them come under growth only, right? So you cannot tell that growth is a characteristic or a defining feature of living organism. Okay, so remember this aspect. Next we'll move on to the reproduction. Okay, welcome back. Now comes the thing called reproduction. Shall we go for reproduction then? Yes. Now, reproduction is a fundamental characteristic of living organism. Now, as I told you earlier also, growth also was a characteristic of living organism. Reproduction is also a characteristic of living organism, right? So, production of new individuals of same kind by the grown up individuals. Okay, why did I tell here grown up individuals? Why? Because now when the reproduction capability is actually possible when it attains a certain age, like puberty, right? So that is why by grown up individuals. So production of new individuals of same kind, this is a classic definition of reproduction. What I exactly mean by reproduction. Okay, so why growth plus reproduction are synonymous in unicelled organism? There I told you a term called mitosis, right? Again it is coming here. I have written this for you. So if you see in cell cycle and cell division chapter, which I will be uploading soon, there I told you that mitosis includes first cell growth. Cell growth में first it has got two phases. One is the interphase, one is the M phase. In interphase actually it prepares the cell for its division, while M phase में actual division happens. Okay, so preparation takes almost like 95% of time, and remaining 5% of time is taken in the M phase. Are you getting the point? So as a result, mitosis में first we have the cell growth and the preparation of cell for the division purpose. So that is why we have in the interphase we have three phases again, G1, S and G2 phase. In G1 phase, but the cell growth, which is a property, is going to continue in all these three phases. Okay, in G1, S and G2 phase, in all these three the cell growth will continue. In G1 exactly all the proteins and all the things necessary for cell division happens over here. In G2 also all the preparation so that the cell can divide happens here. And in S phase, what happens here? DNA duplication happens as well as centriole duplication happens, which I will tell you later. Now you remember that DNA duplication happens in S phase. In G1 and G2 exactly the proteins, all the necessary enzymes, all the necessary things that is required for division is happening in G1 and G2 phase. The preparation phase almost takes 95% and it is known as interphase. The M phase, which is exactly the division phase, is only 5% of the total cell division. Are you getting the point? Cytokinesis will follow. Now this entire thing is called kaiokinesis. After this cytokinesis happens, that is when we get two individual daughter cells from the mother cell. This is a process that happens in the unicellular organism. That is why we tell that growth and reproduction is what do we say, synonymous in unicellular organism. Are you getting the point here? I hope you're getting the point. Listen to the explanation carefully, you'll get all the points here. Now in higher plants or animals we have meiosis. Meiosis, what happens here is that Now I hope you know what is diploid and haploid. I'll just explain you out here what is diploid and haploid here. Where? Here, yes. So you know that diploid means 2n condition, while haploid means n condition. So in meiosis, exactly what happens here is that 2n condition happens, n condition, from male and the female. Okay, these two then fuses to form 2n condition. Then mitosis happens. Mitosis process which I explained you in unicellular organism, same. Then mitosis happens. Then exactly what happens? Growth happens. Then what happens? Then growth takes place. So growth, first what happens? First we have this diploid to n condition, from where n condition wala gametes are formed. Then what happens? Then meiosis happens. Then the female and the male, they fuse together. Then 2n condition. Then mitosis happens. Then growth happens. This is how the cycle of growth happens in higher organisms. But if you see in the unicell organism, exactly, the only thing that happens there is the mitosis that happens. Okay, mitosis takes place, G1, S and G2 phase. Are you getting the point here? That is why in the higher organisms we don't tell that the growth and reproduction are synonymous. Okay, this is the thing that I wanted to explain over here. Other examples of reproduction that takes place is budding. What is budding exactly? If you see here, this is the organism. I'll just show you the organism over here. So what I was telling you, so this hydra was having having tentacles like this. No, just please don't blind my diagram. From here it will grow and bud. This bud will grow into a mature hydra. Then it will detach and a new hydra is formed over here. Okay, that is how what happens here. Growth happens in case of hydra, growth and reproduction. If you see here, fragmentation means if this is the organism, this will break into fragments, and each fragment will grow into new organism. That is fragmentation. That one you will see in filamentous algae, in fungus. Protonema of mosses is basically a gametophytic stage in case of bryophytes. That you will study in the plant kingdom chapter. There I'll teach you in detail. For now you remember protonema of mosses under bryophytes, then filamentous algae, then fungus. Filamentous algae means it will come under blue-green algae. I'll tell you exactly what is that. Then planaria. Planaria may you might have studied in your class 10th or 9th, that regeneration happens. How? If this is the planaria, either it can grow, either from here I can cut, or I can cut from here. Each fragment will grow into new organism, but it is a chance event actually. It does not do purposefully. It happens accidentally. When it happens accidentally, it will start growing this way. That is regeneration property. So organisms which don't reproduce is mule, sterile worker bees, not worker bees, sterile. You have to put here sterile worker bees. Okay, so sterile worker bees is important. So sterile worker bees, an infertile human couples, you see them that they go for IVF and such stuff like that, in vitro fertilization. If they are infertile. Okay, so these organisms, they don't show any sort of reproduction. So can we say that reproduction does not happen in non-living organism? First of all, you remember here is that reproduction is a characteristic of the living organism. Okay, reproduction becomes a characteristic of the living organism. Why so? Because okay, so why the reproduction happens in the living organism? Because reproduction is not the feature. Okay, reproduction is not the feature of non-living organism, Remember, reproduction is not a feature of non-living organism. That is why it is a characteristic of living organism, but not a exclusive defining feature. But is it a defining feature? No, it's not a defining feature, because mule, infertile human couple, and sterile worker bees do not exhibit the reproduction. Okay, so but is growth a characteristic of living organism? No, it is not a characteristic, but it is a fundamental character of living organism. You have to remember these lines, very very important. Now listen to me carefully, don't look here and there, just close your eyes and listen to me carefully. Growth is a fundamental property of a living organism, okay, but it is not a characteristic of living organism or a defining feature of living organism. Reproduction is also a fundamental feature of a living organism, but it is a characteristic of living organism and not the defining feature of living organism. Remember these. Reason why it is not a defining feature of living organism, they can ask for reproduction. This is because mule, infertile human couple, and the sterile worker bees, they do not exhibit reproduction. That is why it is not a defining feature. And why not growth is a characteristic as well as a defining feature of living organism? Because growth can happen in non-living organism as well, and externally, and also growth can happen in all sorts of organisms, whether living or non-living, unicellular or multicellular. There's the only thing is that growth is happening intrinsically in living organism and it is irreversible, while growth happens extrinsically in non-living organism and it is reversible. Are you getting the point? So this was about a total summary of growth and reproduction, the important points you have to remember. Okay, next let's move on to the metabolism part. Metabolism, it is the sum total of all chemical reactions in the body. What do I mean by chemical reactions? Now if you see here, if cells interact, then only what will happen? Tissues are formed. Tissue function is defined. When tissues interact, organ function is defined. When organ interacts, organ system function is determined. If organ system interacts, then only a living body is formed. And the cell's property is defined due to its constituent molecules. If you see, in all levels interaction is necessary for the organism to survive. So that is why the chemical reactions that is happening, or all the chemical reactions that is happening, that is responsible for living, that is called as the metabolism. Now metabolism may include both catabolism and anabolism. What is catabolism? Catabolism means breakdown. Now we can say that glucose breaks down so that glucose ka catabolism will happen so that energy is synthesized. Okay, that is catabolism. Anabolism means synthesis. I can tell photosynthesis is anabolism. This is a classic examples that I am giving you, okay, but you'll be studying all this in detail. Photosynthesis becomes anabolism because you're synthesizing something. Anabolism means synthesizing something. Catabolism means breakdown of something. Metabolism is defining feature of all living organisms because non-living organisms, or without exception, every organism exhibits metabolism. If living organism has to survive, without metabolism it is not possible. So non-living means only no metabolism. Non-living organisms don't show metabolism, or doesn't show metabolism. That will make sense. Doesn't show metabolism. Okay, so non-living organisms doesn't show metabolism. And some reactions can be done outside body, in vitro. These are not living reactions, but the result is living. What do I mean here is that the chemical reactions that is happening inside our body, that is called as living reactions, okay, because it is happening, something that is happening inside our body, but something which we are continuing outside our body, like in a test tube when we add a nutrient medium, and to that I'll add a small tissue, so that what will happen, that will grow eventually into a plant. That is called as in vitro, what do we say, growth. So but the reactions that I am taking there is not living reaction, but the result that callus that I am getting, the plantlet that is I'm getting, that is known as the living. Okay, so the result is living, but the reactions are not living. So for example, what do I exactly see in this in vitro? In vitro, what do I see this? In test tube, how do I synthesize the plants, and why the reactions are not living? First of all, I take a small test tube. Okay, to this I'll add a nutrient medium, a small tissue, let's say of a plant. I'm adding into this. Eventually, when I leave it for days by giving it proper conditions, I see that an entire plant is formed over here. I mean, not plant means a small plantlet is formed over here. Then what do I do is that then I take this plantlet out, and when I put it in the soil, so that it will grow, it will start growing into a healthy plant. So the result is a living, but the reactions that I am providing, the reactions that it is undergoing, like the nutrient medium, the proper condition, the enzymes that I am using, all this I am providing it externally, so the reactions are not living. Are you getting the point? Let's go for consciousness next. Next, consciousness is the most obvious and technically complicated feature of all living organism. Why so? Because we can detect, we can sense, and we can respond to the environment. Okay, so consciousness becomes most obvious and technically complicated feature of all living organisms, because non-living organisms, they don't show this process of consciousness. How does this consciousness exactly happen? First, we detect the stimulus. How do I detect it? For example, if this is a plant, I hope you have studied in your smaller classes the process of auxin mechanism. How does it exactly happen? I'll just show you here. So if this is a plant, I'll just show you how exactly it happens. If this is a plant over here, and a small, let it be here. If this interacts with the sun forms over here, what happens here? Auxin starts synthesizing at the shading place. At the shading place, it starts interacting. As a result, the cell grows and it will start bending towards the sunlight. Okay, it will start bending towards sunlight. Okay, the growth happens over here at this level. Growth happens due to auxin in response to sunlight, and that is when the plant bends towards it and the growth happens. So this is an example. So that is why this is how first what is happening. First, it is detecting what exactly is the stimulus. The stimulus is basically the sunlight over here. Then it is sensing what should I next do. That sensing is called as releasing of auxin. So it is sensing what is my next go, what should I do according to that situation. Then it will respond by growing and bending towards the sunlight. So that is what I told you here. First it is growing and then bending towards the sunlight. Okay, that is how the exactly stuff happens. Then you see here, change detected by living organism is called as stimulus. Whatever change it is detecting, the plant is also a living organism, no? So whatever change it is detecting and responding to it, that is called as stimulus. Are you getting the point here? So let's move on then. Look here, stimulus is physical. Stimulus can be the physical, chemical, or biological. Okay, physical means like just I told you how the intensity of light, the sunlight, or what duration is the light coming for, or what is the direction of light. All the stimulus of in physical way. What are the chemical stimulus that you see? The pollutants. If you see here, example of pollutants means lichens, they don't grow, don't, or doesn't, I mean doesn't grow, just don't mind about the English thing, doesn't grow in polluted areas. This is the interaction of lichens towards pollutants. So it is interacting towards the chemical basis. Biological basis includes predator-prey relationship. Predator-prey relationship. Example I am giving you. So here the predator is a what do we say, stimulus. For that prey becomes activated and it will start hiding from the predator. Are you getting the point here? Next we have here, only eukaryotes respond to stimulus. Does only the eukaryotes respond to stimulus? No. The prokaryotes and eukaryotes, both of them respond to stimulus of varying degrees of various types. For example, if you see here, the seasonal breeders that you see, soybean and radish in plants, and sheep, goat and horse in animals, they grow at a certain season only, like winter or summer. There is a specific time for them to grow. That is why they are that is how they are responding to stimulus. An example again. Now self consciousness is exclusive to human being. Yes, it is an exclusive event because only we are conscious about our behavior, about our actions, where we are active about our actions. We can analyze our actions and we cannot repeat them. That is why we are intellectually very high. Human beings are intellectually very high. Sensitivity or awareness is a defining feature of living organism. Okay, the awareness or the self-awareness, all these are defining feature of living organism. Coma patients neither are living or non-living, okay, because they cannot actually they are not aware of themselves, but somehow their machines, their organs are supported by the machines that are present in the hospitals. So as a result, the coma patients, they are neither living or non-living. Are you getting the point? Then you have here, all living phenomena are due to underlying interactions explained. Properties of tissue is not see, now all living organisms are due to underlying interactions, because now see, how do I exactly explain to you this? Is that with an example. If you see here, constituent cells arise, the constituent that, as I told you earlier, the tissue's property arises due to the interaction of cells but not due to the composition of cells. Okay, similarly the properties of cells come out due to the interactions in the molecules of the cells but not due to the constituent of this molecules. Are you getting the point? Same goes for organs and same goes for organ systems. So after studying all these features, the final definition that you can give for a living organism is that they are self-replicating, evolving and interactive systems capable of responding to the external stimulus. Okay, so living organisms are basically self-replicating, they evolve themselves, and they interactive systems that are capable of responding to external stimuli. Okay, from all these things you can finally give this definition. So all living organisms, present, past or future, they are linked by common genetic material but to varying degrees. So whether the generation is present, whether the generation is past or future, all living organisms, they are connected to each other because of the genetic material that they share as a common feature. Are you getting the point here? So this was about the living organisms and the living system. Let's move on to the diversity of the living organism. Okay, that is going to be really short, but it is going to be very good. Okay, open your NCERTs, everyone. So far whatever NCERTs that we required, we finished here. Let's move on to the good aspects of this chapter now. I hope whatever I taught you so far is crystal clear. Okay, so we saw everything in detail. Okay, the living aspects. Now let's move on to the NCERT line by line reading, and let's move on to this chapter now. We'll start from here only. Okay, so biology is a science of life forms and living processes. The living world comprises an amazing diversity of living organisms, right? Early man could easily perceive the difference between inanimate matter and living organism. Early man defined some of the inanimate matter like wind, sea, fire, and some among the animals and and plants. First you remember, first you like have this kind of mindset of listening properly. If anywhere explaining is required, I will explain, that is not a problem. A common feature of all such forms of inanimate and animate objects was the sense of awe or fear that they evoked. The description of living organisms including human beings began much later in human history. Right, the description, we just saw the difference between animate and inanimate just by looking into them, but the actual definition of living organism or division of living organism started later on. Okay, so societies which indulged in anthropocentric view of biology would register limited progress in biological knowledge. What next is that systematic and monumental description of life forms brought in out of necessity detailed systems of identification nomenclature. The biggest spin-off such studies was the recognition of sharing of similarities among living organisms both horizontally and vertically, that all present day living organisms are related to each other and also to all the living organisms that ever lived, was a revelation which humbled man and led to cultural movements for conservation of biodiversity. So yeah, all this is general thing, not much important. The thing that you have to remember about Ernest Mayr is, this is important, they have asked this question also earlier. So Ernest Mayr was born, the birth and all is not required. So he was known as the Darwin of 20th century. This is important. Darwin of 20th century. Ernest Mayr is known as the Darwin of 20th century. Underline this, the Darwin of 20th century. Was one of the 100 greatest scientists of all time. Also this one. Mayr joined Harvard's Faculty of Arts and retired, assuming Alexander Agassiz, professor of zoology emeritus. Then he 80-year career, all this is not important. He almost single-handedly, he also pioneered the currently accepted definition of biological species. This is important. He gave the definition of biological species. I'll just tell you what exactly he gave in that. This is important. He was known as he got the triple crown of biology, the Balzan Prize, the International Prize for Biology in 1994, and the Crawford Prize. Mayr, this is important. So the 3 points you'll remember about the Ernest Mayr is that he was known as the Darwin of the 20th century. He he gave the definition of species. He gave the accepted definition of biological species. He was also triple crown of biology he got, that is the Balzan Prize. You have to remember the prize also. Okay, the Balzan Prize, the International Prize for Biology, and the Crawford Prize. All this you have to remember. Next, these first two paragraphs we were done with. Next, we will move on to the diversity in living world. Okay, this is a good thing. Diversity in living world will start, then we will move on. Okay, let me just drink some water. If you look around, you will see a large variety of living organisms, be it potted plants, insects, birds, your pets, or other animals and plants. There are also several organisms that you cannot see with your naked eye, but they are all present around you. If you were to increase the area that you make observations in, the range and variety of organisms that you see would increase. Obviously, if you were to visit a dense forest, you would probably see a much greater number and kinds of living organisms in it. Each different kind of plant and animal or organism that you see represents a species. The number of species that are known and described range between 1.7 to 1.8 million. This refers to biodiversity, or the number and the type of organisms present on Earth. We should now what are they telling here is that very simple thing. I hope you would have understood just by reading. You see many organisms around you. Everywhere you see different organisms, but there are few organisms that you cannot see as well. They are present molecular way, very much. They are not visible to the naked eye basically. And this is all biodiversity, and all the different organisms, they comprise a particular species. And there are about 1.7 to 1.8 million species. A thing that I tell you to underline, please do underline. Okay, there are about 1. 1.7 to 1.8 million species. This is important. Then this refers to biodiversity, or the number and types of organisms present on Earth. Okay, yeah, this refers to types of organisms present on Earth. We should remember that here that as we explore new areas and even old ones, new organisms are continuously being identified, right? It is not localized. You see new organisms everywhere. This is Sina. Yeah. As stated earlier, there are millions of plants and animals in the world. We know the plants and animals in our own area by their local names. These local names would vary from place to place, even within a country. Probably you would recognize a confusion that would be created if we did not find ways and means to talk to each other to refer to organisms we are talking about. Yes, see, now we see plants and animals and we probably named them in our local language, but if any foreigner visits our place and if we tell that if we tell that person the organism in our language, will that person be able to understand? No. And is it possible for a person to learn the name of the organism in all languages? No. So that is why there is a standardized language or the names that we are going to give them. That is going to be Latin. In Latin, we are going to give names because Latin is a dead language and it is mostly used by everyone. Okay, since it does not survive anymore, there is no conflicts among people of using organisms. Okay, that is what they're telling here. And hence, there is need to standardize the meaning of living organism, such that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. This is important. This process is called nomenclature. Nomenclature is basically naming of organisms, standardizing the name of the organism. Obviously, nomenclature or naming is only possible when the organism is defined correctly, and we know to what organism the name is attached to. This is known as identification. So what are they telling here is that first we need to identify exactly what is the first. I'll just open my book also simultaneously so that you can see that stuff. So first we need to identify the organism. All right, yes. First, identification is required. If we identify exactly what that organism is there, then the naming, that is the nomenclature, becomes easier. That is what they're telling. First we need to identify, then we can name the organism. Okay, right, well, let's move on to the NCERT then. Yes, so in order to facilitate the study, number of scientists, are you able to see? Yes, number of scientists have established acceptable to biologists all over the world. Few rules the people have set so that it is acceptable to biologists all over the world. For plants, scientific names are based on agreed principles and criteria which are set by the ICBN. ICBN stands for International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. So for animals, for plants, the organization which names them includes ICBN. ICBN stands for International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. For animals, it includes International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. Okay, so yeah, International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. The scientific names ensure that each organism has only one name. That is a unique name we are giving, so that the name is not actually repeated. Okay, each organism has only one unique name. So each organism has only one name. Description of any organism should enable the people in any part of the world to arrive at the same name, right? So they also ensure that such a name has not been used for any other known organism. Now, biologists follow universally accepted principles to provide scientific names to known organisms. Each name has got two components. What are the two components? One is a generic name and one is a specific epithet name. I'll just tell you what is that. For example, for mango, mango is a scientific name. Mango, I'm telling here for you scientific name of mango. Mango scientific name is Mangifera indica. Mangifera indica. So usually the first name that we give will be the genera. The second word that we'll be giving, this is known as specific epithet. So the rules of writing the exactly how do we write the names, we will be discussing that, but this is an example. Mangifera is a genera name, indica is a specific epithet name. Okay, indica is a specific epithet name, and this is about the mango thing. The mango name, how do we exactly give? Okay, so let's move on to the NCERT back then. Okay, this system of providing a name with two components is called binomial nomenclature. This naming system was given by whom? Carolus Linnaeus. The binomial nomenclature, write down the important points. Binomial nomenclature was given by whom? Binomial nomenclature was given by whom? It was given by Carolus Linnaeus. Carolus Linnaeus gave us the biological nomenclature, binomial nomenclature. Binomial means two nominals it has got. One is Mangifera, one is indica. Before Carolus Linnaeus, there are other scientists who gave their own names, like monomial nomenclature. We have trinomial nomenclature also, but this is not there in your state syllabus, so I'm not going that deep in them. Okay, trinomial nomenclature, all these are existing, but it was given by other scientists, but the widely accepted, the original acceptance of naming organism was given to binomial nomenclature, which was given by Carolus Linnaeus. You have to remember these names. Okay, this naming system given by Carolus Linnaeus is being practiced by biologists all over the world. This naming system using a two-word format was found convenient. Let us take the example of mango to understand the way of providing scientific names better. The scientific name mango includes Mangifera indica, as I told you. Mangifera stands, oh god, it's not visible, huh? Yes. Mangifera stands for genus name, indica stands for specific epithet name. I want every one of you to open your NCERTs together so that we will study these things together. Okay, open your NCERTs, we are going to read the text lines together. Okay, yes. So where was I? Mangifera indica. Let us see how it is. It is a binomial name. In this name, Mangifera involves a genus, while indica involves the species, right, or specific epithet name. So the universal rules of this nomenclature includes is that biological names are generally in Latin and written in italics. They are Latinized or derived from Latin irrespective of their origin. Suppose in Hindi, we say to a peacock as more, or mango we can say aam. Now mango in Hindi is aam, but mango in what do we say, general scientific name is Mangifera indica. So though from irrespective of origin, from which origin it doesn't matter, always it is Latinized or in Latin. We speak in Latin but we write in italics because Latin is a dead language. Okay, so Latin mein we bring the particular name and in italics we write them. Are you getting the points over here? Somehow I am just pigmenting my own tab with this pen, so I have to use the other side. Yes, so the first word in a biological name represents a genus, while the second word represents the specific epithet name, and the genus name is written in the capital, while the genus name, the first word is written, the first letter which is there, that is written in the capital, while the second letter is written in small, not the entire word. Once in NEET only they have asked that is the entire genera name is written in capitals. No, not the entire name is written in capitals, only the first letter is written in capital word, and the first letter of the specific epithet is small. Remaining all are small only. Are you getting the point over here? You have to remember this point. So next is that both the words in biological name, when handwritten, they separately underlined or they are printed in italics, okay, to indicate their Latin origin. This is very simple. Okay, the first word denoting the genus starts with a capital letter, while the specific epithet starts with a small letter. It can be illustrated by Mangifera indica. Okay, this is the thing. This is the fourth rule. These 4 rules, just like that, you have to remember. No modifications in the rules. Just like that, they might ask you exact lines. They can ask you. Okay. Name of the author is written in the abbreviated form in the end of the scientific name. Like Mangifera indica was given by Linnaeus. The name of the Mangifera indica was given by Linnaeus. So that is why Mangifera indica Lin, a capital CL now, Lin. This is indicating that Linnaeus is the scientist here, and it is not written in any of the Latin language, italic language. It is written in the normal way only. It indicates that this species was first described by the Linnaeus. Are you getting the point here? Yes. Since it is nearly impossible to study all living organisms, it is necessary to devise some means to make this possible. Okay. So this process is called classification. Since we cannot actually study all living organisms like that only, like there are different organisms, different species, can we study all of them together? No, we cannot study. That is when the thing's classification comes. Classification is a process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters. This is important. And write down the definition of classification. I'm writing it down over here. Look here. What is classification? Classification is basically categorizing various organisms into groups of convenient categories based on easily observable characters. Based on easily observable characters. Remember, the classification is important. The definition of classification is important. You might get confused, so remember it as it is. Okay, you are a biology student, you have to remember stuff also. Okay. So classification is the process by classifying organisms into convenient categories. I'll just reopen. Yes, classification is the process of classifying organisms into convenient categories based on easily observable characters. For example, we can easily recognize groups such as plants or animals or dogs or insects. Okay, the moment we use any of these terms, we associate certain characters with the organism in that group. What image do you get when you talk about a dog? Obviously, each one of us will see dogs and not cats, and when we were to think Alsatians, we know that we were talking about it. Similarly, suppose we were to say mammals, you would of course think of animals which have external ears and body hair. If you are a dropper student, you might have known that external ears and body hair is the characteristics of mammals and not of every organism. Okay, so you would of course think of animals with external ears. Yes. Likewise, in plants, if we try to talk of wheat, the picture in each of our minds will be of wheat plants and not of any rice or any other plant. Hence, all these dogs, cats, mammals, wheat, rice are convenient categories we use to study organisms. The scientific term for these categories is taxa. So remember here, taxa. What is taxa here? Taxa is basically the categories that we categorize the organism. categories, all these categories that we categorized organisms into, that is called as taxa. Okay, now here again, yes, here you must recognize that taxa can indicate categories at very different levels, right? Plants also form a taxa, wheat is also a taxa, yes, at various levels. Now wheat is a taxa, plant is a taxa, all this. So taxa categories can be at various levels. Categories or taxa could be at various levels. Okay, similarly animals, dogs, all these are what, a different taxa, but you know that dog is a mammal and mammals are animals, therefore animals, dogs, mammals, all these represent taxa at various levels. Okay, so if they give you examples of what do we say, now see what they exactly told is that wheat is a taxa, at its own level. Then monocot or dicot, monocot is also a taxa, then we have plant is also a taxa. Okay, but these taxa occur at various levels. Are you getting the point? These taxa are at various levels. Okay, see now, wheat comes under monocots comes under plants as a whole, so that is why we can say taxa is at various levels. Okay, so that is what they're telling. Taxa is everything, but everything grouped at various levels, we group everything at various levels. Are you getting the point here? Grouping of everything at various levels is taxa. That is what is happening here. So taxa is grouping everything at various levels. Here you must recognize that taxa can indicate categories at very different levels. This is all over. Hence, based on characteristics, all living organisms can be classified in different taxa. The process of classification is known as taxonomy. This classification ka process is only taxonomy. What is classification? Classification based on easily observable characters, I can categorize them into different categories. That is called classification. And all these categories that we classified, these are known as taxa, and the taxa ka study or categorizing organisms into various taxa, that is known as taxonomy. External and internal structures, along with the structure of cell development processes and the ecological information of organism, are essential and form the basis of modern taxonomic studies. This is important. What and all comes under, underline this point, it is very important. What and all comes under modern taxonomic studies? Okay, this was a paragraph that I just read. That's why open your NCERTs too, so that we can go with hand in hand. So what is the basis of modern taxonomic studies? External and internal structure, along with the structure of cell, the development process and the ecological information of organism are essential, and they form the basis of the modern taxonomic studies. Are you getting the point here? Okay, next is that can you see this? Yes. Hence, characterization, identification, classification, nomenclature are all the basic to the taxonomy. First we identify the organism, then we name the organism, then we first we characterize that organism, then we identify what exactly is the organism, then we classify the organism, then we name the organism. So you can remember as CICN. It's very easy, no? CICN. Okay, sick none, or you can say sick none. Okay, sick none. So CICN. So first we characterize what exactly is the organism, we characterize that person, then we, what do we do, then we identify exactly who is that person, then we put them into convenient categories, then we name them accordingly. So naming comes in the last moment. Remember, taxonomy is not something new to us. Human beings have always been interested in knowing more and more about the various kinds of organisms, particularly with reference to their own use. In early days, human beings needed to find sources for their basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter. Hence, the earliest classification was based on the uses of various organisms. So, taxonomy is not something that is new to the human beings. Human beings have always been using this taxonomy, so that the first very basic level of taxonomy that we have been using to characterize stuff is basically based on our needs, that is basic food needs like food, clothing, shelter. Based on this only, the very first category that we have been used. Okay, then we have your human beings were since long not only interested in knowing more about different kinds of organisms and their diversities, but also the relationships among them. This branch of study was referred to as systematics. The word systematics is derived from Latin word systema, which means systematic arrangement of organisms. Systematics is again, human beings were since long not only interested in knowing more about different kinds of organisms and the diversities, but also the relationships that existed among them. First we wanted to know about different organisms, then we wanted to know about the diversities, then we wanted to know about the relationships that existed among them. This branch of study was referred to as systematics. The word systematics is derived from the Latin word systema, which means systematic arrangement of organisms. Systematics. Linnaeus used Systema Naturae as a title for so Linnaeus, he published two books. One is Systema Naturae, one is Species Plantarum. Systema Naturae he provided for the animals, while Species Plantarum he provided for Systema Naturae for plants and Species Plantarum for animals. Okay, no. I guess I told you something reverse. I'll write it down here so that you won't get confused. So Linnaeus published two books. He published two books. One is, what were the books that he published? He published Species Plantarum, and he published Systema Naturae. He published two books. One is Species Plantarum, one is Systema Naturae. Species Plantarum was for plants study, and Systema Naturae was for animals. Okay, are you getting the point here? Okay, this was about things. Next again, back to the NCERT. So so based on characteristics, all living organisms can be all this is over. Systematics we were seeing here. Systematics is basically knowing the relationships among organisms, and also knowing what is their ancestral information. All this comes under the systematics, and the word systematics was given by is derived from the Latin word, which means systematic arrangement of organism. Basically arranging organisms based on the relationships, based on okay, then we used Systema Naturae as a title of his publication. This scope of systematics was later enlarged to include identification, and then nomenclature, and then classification also. So this systematics, along with identification, nomenclature, and classification, systematics takes into account even the evolutionary relationships among organisms. So taxonomy, again they can ask what and all comes under taxonomy now. So these are the possible questions that I am giving you along with this. You have to be careful about them. In taxonomy you have first characterization. Are you able to see? Yes. Characterization we have, then we identify them, then we classify them. Okay, then we classify them, and then we give them nomenclature. But the systematics branch is something systematic arrangement of organism, and this includes systematics which was given by Carolus Linnaeus, which is Latin derived. It includes taxonomy, all the things that comes under taxonomy, plus it includes evolutionary relationships. evolutionary relationships. Okay, and this is again Latin, systemized Latin. Even taxonomy is also Latin. Okay, these are the few points that we have to remember. And who gave this? This was again given by Carolus Linnaeus. And the books that I wrote there, you have to remember them also: Species Plantarum and Systema Naturae. Systema Naturae for animals and Species Plantarum for plants. Okay, so shall we go to the taxonomic categories now? Shall we move on to the next topic then? Yes. The entire chapter we are finishing here in detail. If you see so far, nobody might have taught you the living world in this much detail. Okay, but we are not trying to miss any aspect. Every aspect it should be clear, because there is no weightage as such. People who learned for 2025 based on weightage could not do stuff in NEET exam. So I hope you don't go with what we say weightage, and you focus on mostly on learning each and everything in a perfect way, giving a sufficient amount of time. So if as I told you, later we'll discuss whatever I wanted to tell further, but we'll just finish this chapter soon. With understanding concepts. Now, taxonomic categories. Shall we move on to this topic now? Classification is not a single step of process, but involves hierarchy of steps. What do I mean by hierarchy of steps? And in which each step represents rank or category. What do I mean by this? Let me open my page. This is everything that we have scribbled. So whatever we discussed, I'm moving on to the next page now. Paper is clear, right? Yes. Look here now. What are they telling here is that, what do you mean by what the hierarchy of steps? You keep in mind one mnemonic that I'm going to mention here. Keep pots clean or family gets sick. This stands for kingdom. This stands for phylum, or we can tell division also. Division, will be using it for plants. Then class, then order, then family, genus, species. Okay, this is the thing. Yes. So this is the hierarchy of classification. Hierarchy classification. Okay, and these individual classification is known as taxon. This individual classification, this is known as taxon. This species is a taxon, genus is a taxon, family, all these are taxon at various levels. Are you getting the point here? But each step of classification, the way we are classifying them, each step of classification, like this is the first rank, this is the second rank, this each step of classification, this is known as rank or category. Okay, each step of classification, and this species, genus, all these are known as taxon. Taxon is basically classifying anything, any classification is known as. For example, if I classify humans are also a taxon. If I classify what do we say, dogs are one taxon, animals are a taxon. Similarly, but the way we are giving it hierarchy, okay, that is known as ranks. Like species, the first rank, genus, the second rank. Like ranks, we are hierarchy of steps which we are giving, that is known as the ranks. Are you getting the difference here? Yes. Now this taxon is basically a unit of classification, you can tell. Unit of classification. You can remember. I'll just come back to the NCERT now. This is a concept, okay, whatever I told you here, when you read this in your textbook, you'll understand. I'm just reading that out. This chapter requires purely NCERT reading, that's why the concept that I had to tell you, I already explained you in the first page. first few pages that I wrote and explained, there I explained you the concept. This one is basically facts based, that is why we are purely running with the NCERT. Okay. Classification is not a single step process but involves hierarchy of steps in which each step represents a rank or category. Okay. Now since the category is a part of overall taxonomic arrangement, it is known as taxonomic category. Are you getting the point? We are each and every step with the hierarchy of steps we are arranging, and all of them together constitute to be the taxonomic category or taxonomic arrangement. And all categories together constitute the taxonomic hierarchy. Now each category referred to as a unit of classification, in fact represents a rank and is commonly termed as taxon. Okay. Now taxonomic categories and hierarchy can be illustrated by an example. Insects represent a group of organisms sharing common features like 3 pairs of jointed legs. It means that, now if you see here, hierarchy can be illustrated by various examples, like based on anything you can include this taxonomic category into. So for example, insects, they represent a group of organisms which share common features like 3 pairs of jointed legs. Like if you see in insects, they have 3 pairs of jointed legs. It means insects are recognizable concrete objects which can be classified and thus were given a rank or category. Okay. Now can you name, so here we have classified insects based on the character that they have 3 pairs of jointed legs. That is why insects can form a rank or category. Now if you see here, is rank and category the same? Is rank or category or taxon, are all of these 3 things same? Yes, they are same, but rank exactly refers to the division. Don't get confused here. As I told you, ranking means giving step by step, while taxon means species, then all these animals, based on that is species. Category will be same. Okay, so rank, taxon, category, all these 3 things are same. Okay, don't get confused. Okay, so don't contradict my statements. I hope you are able to understand. This is the confusion part, but I explain you crystal clear. If you need anything else, you can just comment down in comment section. It is always there for you. Okay. So can you name other such organisms or groups of organisms? Remember, groups represents categories. Okay, groups are categories. Groups, categories, taxons, rank, all these are the same. Category further denotes the rank. Each rank or taxon, in fact, represents a unit of classification. These taxonomic groups or categories are distinct biological entities and not mere morphological aggregates. What do I mean by morphological aggregates? See, now these groups or categories, we are not just classifying based on morphology. See, this characterization is not happening. The categorization is not, categorization is not only happening based on it is not only happening based on morphology, not only by morphology, not merely by morphology, but also other things that comes with this, other classification things that comes with them. Okay, are you getting the point here? I hope you're getting the point over here. So moving further, now taxonomical studies of all known organisms have led to the development of common categories such as kingdom, phylum or division, class, order, family, genus and species. All organisms, including those in the plant and animal kingdoms, have species as the lowest category. Okay, species is the most basic and the lowest category. Now the question you may ask is how to place an organism in various categories. The basic requirement is a knowledge of characters of see now these are the units of classification: the species, the kingdom, class, order. But on what basis, how can you place this organism in each and every category? by knowing what? By knowing the characters of the organism. Are you getting the point here? Classification requires characterization. That's why I told you, first we characterize, then we identify, then we classify, then we name. So if we know the characters of the organism, we will be able to identify what exactly is the organism. Then by knowing difference and similarities and stuff like that, we can actually like what we say, classify the organism. After classification, eventually the last thing that remains is the naming, giving the organism a particular name. Are you getting the point here? Yes. So first, that is what they're telling here. Listen carefully, guys. It is not something that is not that difficult or rocket science. It's very, very, very simple. Okay. So the basic requirement is the knowledge of characters of an organism, individual, or group of organisms. This helps in identifying similarities and differences among the individuals of the same kind of organisms, as well as we can compare them with other kinds of organisms. So let's move on to species, then we'll move on to genus, family, order, class, phylum, kingdom. All this in detail we'll be looking into, and after that summary is important. First we'll move on to the species part. So okay, the first thing we are discussing is species. Taxonomic studies consider a group of individual organisms with fundamental similarities as species. This is important. A group of organisms with fundamental similarities are species. Okay, one should be able to distinguish one species from other closely related species based on the distinct morphological differences. Now see here, in the species, based on one species can be differentiated from the other species just based on the morphological differences. For example, if you say potato and tomato, will you be able to say both of them belong to same species? No, potato is something different, tomato is something different. Are you getting the point here? So that is what they're telling here. So based on basic classification is taxonomy. Based on fundamental similarities only, we can classify the species. Okay, based on simple morphological differences also we can classify the species. Let us consider Mangifera indica, Solanum tuberosum, and Panthera leo. All these are having indica, the tuberosum and leo. All these are species. While the first words Mangifera, Solanum, Panthera, this first word that I told you, these all belong to the genus name or the genera name and represents another higher level of taxon or category. Each genus may have one or more than one specific epithets representing different organisms. Now if you see here, group of species form genus, group of genus forms family, group of family forms order, group of order forms class, group of class forms phylum, group of phylum forms kingdom, like this. So few or many species can together form genus. Many genus come together to form family. Many family come together to form order. Like this, the hierarchy keeps increasing from most basic to advanced level. So that is what they're telling here. Okay, able to see, right? So yeah, so each genus can have based on but having morphological similarities. So based on few morphological similarities, we can place them together under one genus. For example, Panthera has another specific epithet called tigris, and Solanum has another like nigrum and melongina. All this come. These are the Solanum is a genus, while melongina, the tuberosum, the all this nigrum, all this together forms the species. Human beings, again, human beings ka scientific name, Homo sapiens. Homo becomes the genus, while the sapiens becomes the species. Okay, next is the genus. Genus comprises a group of related species which has more characters in common in comparison to species of other genera. So species may be just so simple type of classification based on simple morphological similarities, but genus may we will see more characters in common than genera. So if I have to tell the basic thing from here to here, similarities keeps increasing, but the characters of them, the defining features, the exacted features, that stops decreasing. Okay, like the common features of similarities keeps increasing from the basic level, that is species, to the kingdom. Are you getting the point here? Yes. So let's move on to back to the genus part then from the NCERT. So genus comprises a group of related species which has more characters in common in comparison to species of other genera. We can also say that genera are aggregates of closely related species. For example, potato and brinjal are two different species, but both of them has got a common genus, Solanum. Lion, Panthera, Leo, leopard, Panthera pardus, tiger, Panthera tigris. This Panthera is a genus, while Leo is lion, pardus is leopard, tigris is tiger. All this forms a species with several common features. Are all species of the genus Panthera. Now this genus differs from another genus, Felis. Felis is for cats. You have to remember all these, okay? Whatever I'm reading, right, you have to remember them line by line. There's no option. The examples, everything you have to remember. I'm not just explaining, I'm just telling you what and all you have to read. Next is a family. The next category, family, has a group of related genera with still less similarities, with still less number of similarities as compared to genus and species. Okay, so similarities between different organisms keeps increasing, but among the organisms, the differences, that is going to decrease. Okay, the differentiable characters that we are basically seeing, that is going to still decrease. Families are characterized on the basis of both vegetative, this is important, family may we see, just you can see this. Okay, family may we see vegetative and reproductive characters, reproductive features, while in what we see, family में we see this, order में we see floral characters. These keywords you have to remember, and there's nothing that I have something that I have to explain here. Everything is very, very simple. Look here again. Families are characterized on the basis of both vegetative and reproductive features of plant species. Among plants, for example, three different genera, Solanum, Petunia, and Datura, are placed in the family Solanaceae. Solanaceae is a family, while Petunia, Datura, and Solanum, these together form the family. This one is genera. Solanum, Petunia, Datura. Remember, okay, Solanaceae is a family Solanaceae, while Petunia, Datura, and these come under this. These genera come under Solanaceae. Solanaceae family. Among animals, for example, the Panthera, the Felis comes in a family Felidae. Panthera and Felis. Panthera and Felis together comes under family Felidae. You can remember whatever I'm telling you. You can create a mind map over here. Panthera plus Felis. They come under where? They come under family Felidae. You can create a mind map like this, and you can, after reading this NCERT for like this chapter NCERT like 2 times, you can glance the entire chapter by first you can categorize them like this. See here, no, whatever you be studying the text, right, like this, you can categorize them like this. Family, species में what comes, genus में what comes, family में what comes, then by putting their names we can fill this gap like this. Okay, remember, do this homework after reading this chapter at least like 2 times. This chapter is simple. Once you read this chapter 2 times, and the notes that I provide you, if you read that along with NCERT, more than enough. You have seen yeah, so this is what so similarly, if you observe the features of cat and dog, you will find some similarities and some differences as well. They are separated into 2 different families, Felidae and Canidae respectively. The similarity is increasing, that I told you. It increases from top to bottom, guys. Sorry. Okay, similarities increases from top to bottom, not from up, like this. So because within species you can find similarities within, but the similarities keep decrease a little bit here because a group of species forms genus. Similarities still keeps decreasing over here. So top to bottom similarities increases. Getting the point? Top to bottom similarities increases, not up to down the similarities increases, not top to up to down. Up to down the similarities increases, top to bottom the similarities increases. Are you getting the point? Top to bottom the similarities increases, top to bottom the similarities increases. Okay, yes. So similarly, if you observe the features of a cat and dog, you will find some similarities and some differences as well. They are separated into two different families, that is Felidae and Canidae. Next we have order. You have seen earlier that categories like species, genus, families are based on a number of similar characters. Generally, order and other higher taxonomic categories are identified based on the aggregates of characters. Order being a higher hierarchy is assemblage of families. Again, the similar characters are less in number as compared to the genera as well as the family. The plant families like Convolvulaceae, Solanaceae come under order polynomials. Okay, you can as I told you, just put out the mind map and put your stuff there. So based on the floral characters, the animal order Carnivora include the families Felidae and Canidae. Next comes the class. This category includes related orders, like for example order Primatum comprising a monkey, gorilla and gibbon is placed in class Mammalia along with order Carnivora. Okay, this like class Mammalia includes what? Carnivora. Carnivora mein what and all we included? Felidae and Canidae, right? This Felidae and Canidae includes what? Felidae includes the Panthera and it includes the Felis, while the Canidae includes the Canis. Okay, so like this you have to categorize them and you have to put them into one page. That is your homework. Okay. Mammalia. The phylum, now classes comprising animals like fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds, along with mammals, they form phylum. But for plants, we will be using division. Division is used for plants, not for animals. Okay, phylum is used for animals. Now these based on the common features like presence of notochord and dorsal hollow neural cord are included in phylum Chordata. Now in case of plants, classes with a few similar characters are assigned to a higher category, that is division. This is done. Next, kingdom is again a broad classification which includes all of them. Here the characters are very less as compared to individual of them. This is your homework, read them once. It's very simple, nothing is there in this kingdom. So like this, if you see a hierarchy table they have given over here, and I have given you the trick as well. Now after going home you will be doing this table. It is very simple. I'll just give you an example. Now man may, what is the biological name? Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens means genus includes what? Homo, while sapiens comes under species. Species with sapiens. Homo is genus. Now what is the family? They come under Hominidae. Order Primata, class Mammalia, Chordata. Like this you will be doing this hierarchy table even for the examples that you have studied from these paragraphs. Go through this table, and summary also you can go through. There's nothing much in the summary. It is very simple things. Whatever we studied is there in summary. You have to go through summary. Okay, summary is very very important. So soon PYQs of this chapter I'll be uploading. You can do that as well. So this was the end of the chapter. I hope this chapter is crystal clear. Very very simple chapter, but little bit conceptual, not very much conceptual. The points I told you about Ernest Mayr, scientist, also I hope it's clear. Anyway, okay, I hope it's clear now. We will move on to further chapters. Maybe we'll move on to physics now because we finished one chapter bio. Anyway, thank you all.